Today's video game review is Unhack. This was given to me by a guy by the name of Invert Mouse, and usually I'm more of a story reviewer. I don't usually do video games, but I will give this one a shot. So in Unhack, you play as an unhacker who unhacks things. As you can see, it's very easy to understand, and that's the one thing I can basically use to describe the entire game. Very, very easy to understand in pretty much every sense. For example, the controls. The only controls in this game are you going up, down, left, right, and that's it. You basically go across these nodes of some sort and basically proceed to the next screen, much like a platformer or any game of that type. It is a puzzle game though, and usually I'm very stupid when it comes to puzzle games, by the way. I just like, but not with this one. This one's pretty easy, so it is actually a good puzzle game to start out with if you've never played a puzzle game before and you want to try one. I do recommend it because it's just easy to understand. So basically the gameplay is you move up, down, left, right across various nodes to get to the next screen, right? Blue nodes are safe, and any node that goes red is bad, is the basic concept. You will die if you hit a red node. You can set the difficulty up so that you have either unlimited lives or limited lives based on how hard you want the game to be. If you set it up to be unlimited lives, then more than likely you will breeze through this game very, very fast, as it's not a very long game. But if you set it up on a harder difficulty, it probably could take you a little bit longer, as it will set you back quite a bit, and it's just a much... you have to be much more careful when you have limited lives in games in general. And so if you don't want to breeze through this game, I do recommend starting on a higher difficulty. But if you don't care and you just want something fun to play, then I would recommend just playing on easy, having unlimited lives so you can go through the story once. And then if you want to come back, you can try it on a harder difficulty. But that's not all there is to the gameplay. You don't just... go across and avoid red stuff. That's the main brunt of it, but it will obviously introduce elements, like say it will have these blocks that will glow red when you go past them, and whenever they're red you die, but you have to go past them at a certain moment of the game. There will be blocks that are outside the screen that will shoot lasers at you and stuff like that. And basically, the thing about this game that's so good in terms of game design is it introduces all these elements very slowly, like one at a time. There's not a single difficulty spike in this game, and I think that's very nice because I think what turns gamers off the most in any game is a difficulty spike, and there's not any, so don't worry about that. So it's very intuitive because you learn how to deal with things one by one, and then you can incorporate things like, say, you get white nodes that can turn off the red kill stuff for a limited time, but if you go back to the white node, it will reactivate the time. And so those elements are just, introduced in a way that's very easy for gamers to take in. Though, it's not just a game, it actually has a plot to it with characters. Moe girls, in fact. And basically you play as an unhacker. Yes, it is Unhack, so unhacker. And he gets these various AIs to help them, and they are Moe girls, they are waifu kind of characters, like the main girl, Weedy. She is basically the Yamato Nadeshiko of the game, where she is basically there to be your kind of perfect girlfriend in a way. Not that perfect. Your main character will basically make jokes about having a costume mod on her, and she's always refusing and stuff like that. It's silly, endearing humor, which you may or may not like. He makes a lot of in-game jokes, references to other games that you may like, you may not get. It depends on how many games you've played. If you're a visual novel fan and you want to check this game out, then you might not get everything, but I assume most people will get the kind of humor that they're saying. If you're not a fan of Moe stuff, then this game will escape you, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it if you like the gameplay. And it's not like it's pushed on you too hard, you know? It's not like it's like in your face all the time. And actually, the way the story is incorporated in the game is very much how many games should incorporate the stories, and that it's kind of like narrated to you as you're playing, you know, because the girls are voiced, which is nice. And that way you don't have, it's not obstructing your gameplay with cutscenes. Yes, there will be various instances where the game will just pause for a second for the characters to have a quick conversation, but a lot of them are, that's not so bad because none of those scenes are very long, and it's not obstructing, and it usually gives you some sort of interest. It gives you some sort of compelling, just this thing where you want to basically see more of the story. You don't just want to see more of what the game has to offer. You want to see more of the story. So not only is it introducing new gameplay elements, it's introducing new story elements, and I think that combined nature actually makes the game very, very palpable, very, very playable, and you just want to keep going and going. And I basically just played it all at once, which is impressive for me. I mean, I know it's a short game, but I played it all at once, and I never got bored, so I have to give that a good thumbs up, because most new games I don't even play. I think the last new game I played was The Last of Us, and I got very bored of that game, and I definitely didn't get bored of this game. So good job on the developer for making a good game that where the story is a complement to the gameplay rather than something that obstructs it. And I think a lot of game developers, they really get that wrong. They think the story is for games should be treated the same way it is in a book, in a movie, and it really shouldn't. It should be more like The Bastion, where it's kind of narrated towards you, and it makes it more interactive, where your actions kind of have interaction. And this game very much shows that with the final boss, and I love the way the final boss was designed. Very, very nice. I don't want to spoil that, but I will say it was nice. If you catch on it, you might not notice it, but it's nice what they did. As for the story, I don't want to spoil too much. I will say, it's obviously, since the game is paced very fast, the story is paced very fast as well. So, unfortunately, at times it does feel like things just happen a little too fast, and you can't necessarily take it in at times. So he might have wanted to, I don't know if I would say to slow it down, because it is a game. It is not a movie. It is not a book. It is a game. So, for the game where it's keeping things fun, maybe it is paced just fine. And since it's always fun, but it did feel at times like maybe things were happening a little too fast for me to really take it in, or for me to really take some of the characters' actions seriously. But it is nice that the characters were not just static the whole game, and that's, nice. Not to say the characters are terribly developed, unfortunately, but hey, it is a game, so the characters are just kind of endearing personalities. There's not a whole lot to them, but I can't say they're necessarily bad either. They're characters you've seen time and time again, probably, but they definitely add something to the game more than takes away from it. Though, of course, like I said before, if you're not a fan of moe stuff, you probably need to stay away from this kind of game. Obviously, graphics, very simple, but since everything is color-coded, it works, it's just a very, I'll just be honest with you, I don't care about graphics in a game. I just care about the graphics working for the game, and the graphics definitely work for the game. They don't obstruct. It's, since everything is color-coded, it's just, easy to understand, and that's basically what I said before. It's the strongest point of the game, is that it's easy to understand and everything is kept fresh constantly. Musically, nothing really particularly stands out, but that doesn't mean it's bad music. It is a compliment to the game. It's good music, actually. It's just, it's more just subtle kind of background music. Not to say that's bad, it just means that you're not necessarily paying attention to the music as much as you are the gameplay, and it doesn't get repetitive ever, which is the one thing you want to make sure you do in a game, is make sure the music doesn't get repetitive. You should never feel compelled to turn on something else when you're playing a game. If you're doing that, then that means the music has basically failed to do its job with the music and with the gameplay in general. I mean, every so often when you just want to turn off everything and just listen to music and play a game, that's fine, but you shouldn't feel compelled to do that, especially early on. And the music does have some nice touches, like with the last boss, where it changes dynamically, and I like that. You know, it's very important for when music is complementing the game for it to change dynamically at points, and I feel like it does that because it keeps you engrossed in the experience. And it's very funny that I was engrossed in this experience besides the, you know, the somewhat primitive graphics, you know, somewhat basic graphics. I wouldn't say primitive, just kind of basic, and yet I was engrossed in it the whole experience, and that's very nice. Voice acting wise, I think this is probably the area of the game that could be improved. Not because the voices for the characters. The voices for the characters are fine. I know people are just gonna nitpick and say the voice acting is awful because they have moe anime girl voices, and it's like, no. If the character is drawn like a moe anime girl, the girl needs to voice it like a moe anime girl, okay? That's just how these characters are voiced. If they're drawn overly cutesy, they need to be voiced overly cutesy. It just wouldn't fit other way. I mean, could you imagine these girls that look like this being voiced by normal people? It would be jarring, you know? But that's not the problem with the voice acting. The problem is, at times, it just feels like the girls, because the only characters that are voiced are the girls, the avatar is unvoiced, as, you know, because you're supposed to kind of self-insert yourself as a player, so I understand why the game designer chose to do that. But the girls, since they're AIs, their emotions are rather limited, you know, and that's fine. I understand that maybe that's why the emotions were rather limited, but they are obviously AIs with emotions. They are beings with emotions, and sometimes when they're being kind of emotional, it does come off very insincere and stuff like that, and I feel like the voice actresses, they held themselves back a little too much, and that might have been because they were voicing AIs and they thought they should have, but quite honestly, since they are playing characters with emotions, you know, the Wheaties' actions are very much based on emotions, and I feel like they probably should have just branched out a little, not held back as much, and use those moments to be a little more sincere at times. And sometimes I feel like they might have been portraying their character a little too strongly, like, for example, A2, this bratty, who's supposed to have a bratty personality by natural, but she pretty much only gave this bratty nature a lot of the time, but there was this one scene when she was talking with her manager where she wasn't, and that was nice to see, and I feel like we needed more of that. We needed more lines that kind of branch out, but I'm a voice actor myself, so, you know, I obviously am critiquing a little too harshly, I think, but I think that might have helped with the voice acting department, because I think it might fail to really impress people, or people might say the voice acting might be potentially intrusive on their experience because they feel like there's no sincerity to the lines at times, and that's a shame. But you know, it is nice that it has voice acting because it helps you keep playing instead of reading. It helps you you just listen and play along with it. You know, I think the one problem is that basically the story nodes, there are story nodes that you walk on where the dialogue proceeds. So you go to one node, and then you go to another node to read the next line, and another node to read the next line at times. And sometimes they're placed a little too close to each other, and so you'll end up skipping lines a little too much, and I think that would be my only complaint with the gameplay, is that maybe they should have spaced out those lines a little too much. As far as lengths, it's very short, so it would have been nice if he had these extra levels that weren't based on the story, that basically were a little bit harder than the normal story levels, and just for players who like the gameplay and just wanted some extra levels that don't necessarily involve the story. But I see that, you know, that would just be an extra thing to add on to help increase the game time, and I guess it would be kind of cheap in some sense too to increase the game time that way, but I guess it would be nice for players who like that kind of thing. So overall, yes, I do recommend it. It's only $5. It would actually be a really good iPhone game, because the gameplay is very simple and very easy to understand. Anyone could enjoy this game. Anyone could enjoy this game. even if you're not a puzzle fan like myself, I'm not much of a puzzle game fan. I still enjoyed it. You know, the last puzzle game I played was Catherine on the PS2 and PS3, and that game destroyed me. But this game, you know, I didn't feel like that maybe that too much. You know, I died a lot because I'm terrible at these games and I'm impatient. You got to be a little patient while playing this game. And but I enjoyed it. I think it was really well paced. I don't think it ever got boring. I don't know if it's necessarily a game that's replayable at all, but that's okay. It was a fun experience, and it's only $5. It's pretty cheap for a good hour of entertainment, depending on the difficulty you select. And yeah, just if you want something quick, fun to play, you can play it in bursts, you can play it all at once, play it however you want, and I hope to see more from this guy, because he obviously knows how to design games where the story incorporates complements the game very well, and the gameplay, he knows how to keep it fresh without dragging anything out. And usually that's the big problem with game developers, is they will drag things out a little too much, and that definitely didn't happen here. So I do recommend this game. Go check out Unhack on Steam. It's only $5. That's all for now. I'm gonna go continue playing Umi Neko.